Bonjour à tous, le Monde du Ciné vous invite aujourd'hui dans l'univers de Bonnie Clyde, le musical. Le spectacle se joue à Londres en ce moment au Art Theatre jusqu'au 10 juillet. Nous avons la chance d'avoir avec nous les deux acteurs principaux, Frances Mayli McCann et Jordan Luke Gage. Bonjour Frances, bonjour Jordan.
Hello, bonjour.
So the show opened in April with big success. Can you tell us about the atmosphere every night? How does it feel for you to play in front of full houses?
Oh, it's amazing. It's so nice to come out to play to a full house, especially having such a long break away from theatre with the pandemic, everything closing. To come back and play full houses feels so much more special.
Mm-hmm.
The atmosphere is amazing to know that it has such a following and it's a hit.
Yeah.
Feels really cool.
Yeah, most nights are, I would say, almost, if not always, like sold out. So, yeah, we haven't yet had one bad audience. People are always going crazy for it. The atmosphere is great. Yeah.
Even when it's quieter, when it's not full, there's always an incredible atmosphere.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
we're really lucky.
And because it's quite an intimate space, you really do hear every like little laugh or anything like that. So it really does lend itself to the atmosphere.
So the musical was originally developed in the US and it took a decade to come here to London. Why do you think it took so long, and do you think that London needed a show like Bonnie and Clyde right now, especially?
Yeah, I think it took a while because I think this is just the time that is right for the show to be here. It became really popular and kind of a cult musical through people listening to the soundtrack of the Broadway show, and it's kind of been done like on the amateur dramatic scene over here and done in drama schools, that kind of thing. So people have known about the show, but it's never been done in like a professional way on the West End like it is now. So I just think it's happening now because it's the right time. People love a story of like the underdogs and people standing up to society, like all of that. So I think it's just the right moment for it.
I think we were lucky to get to do the first professional production in London because, you know, the soundtrack, like you say, has been out for 10 years, and so it's built up this following and people have really been waiting for it and excited to see it, so we're lucky that we get to be the first ones to do it.
Yeah, very
Yeah. So what made you want to be part of this show? Like, is it you who came to Bonnie and Clyde, or Bonnie and Clyde who came to you? What happened?
Yeah, it came to me, I guess. I saw that they were doing a concert. I saw that last year, and the concert happened in January of this year, and they called me up and asked me to come play Bonnie, and I was amazed, and for a long time I was like, really? Me? Okay. And even then getting to do this full run has just been the most incredible experience. Dying Ain't So Bad, Bonnie's big song, has been in my rep and has been one of my favourite audition songs for years, so now that I get to sing this every night, and it's amazing. It's a dream come true.
I would say I went to Bonnie and Clyde because I heard it was coming, and it's a part that I've kind of always wanted to play but was never sure if it would ever come over here. So I just contacted my agent and said, please can you let them know that I'm interested. If they want to get me in, I'd love to audition for it. And then that's just kind of how it happened. So it all worked out well.
Yeah, you made it at the end. Yeah. So one of the best aspects of the show it's music. So it's by Frank Whittle with the lyrics by Don Black. So do you have a favorite song you like to perform most in the show?
Favorite song to perform? I love our duet Too Late to Turn Back Now, because the journey from the start of it to the end is always so much fun and so interesting to play. I love listening to Dying Ain't So Bad because it's amazing.
Oh,
yeah. Which is
I love Too Late to Turn Back Now. I think because it's such a rush. Like before we do it, I'm like, oh, okay, I've really got to like gear myself up for it. And then I think just because we get to let loose and it's so passionate, by the end, like, whew, okay, let's carry on. But my favourite changes every night. Honestly, I love when I drive, but at the moment I love the Raise a Little Hell reprise.
Oh yeah.
Three Guys just sound so good, and I'm getting ready to come on for the scene, and it just like pumps me up, and I have a little dance backstage. I love it.
That's a great song, yeah. Let's talk about the characters. So how much of your personality did you give to the characters? How much of you did you add to Bonnie for you and to Clyde for yourself?
I mean, I really like the characters.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because I feel like without knowing it, you kind of naturally bring some of yourself to a character because you can only portray a character through tapping into your own experience. So like even though we are very different to our characters, the reason it is really natural and like the chemistry is natural is because there is probably a part of it that is like our personality. I think we try and make these characters relatable and we want people to like root for them and find them endearing. So we're trying to make them as human as possible, I guess. So yeah, I would say without deliberately doing it, there are definitely aspects of ourselves in them.
We do like character research and then I guess you just find what qualities they have and you have that are similar and go, okay, this is how I can relate and this is how I can convey this part of the character.
Right.
I think for me, playing Bonnie, in the second half when I get to wear the iconic stripy outfit and the beret, and at that point she's so much more passionate and fierce, so I love tapping into that side of me.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's right. That's going to make me jump actually to another question, but because Bonnie and Clyde, they kill like 11 people, I think, and we 8 killers, but we still feel some sympathy for the characters. So you think it's because of what you add to them?
Yeah, I think because ultimately people can do terrible things in their lives, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are terrible people. Like obviously they committed awful crimes and they paid for those crimes, but it doesn't mean that the core of them was evil. Like they did have, they weren't always that way. Like they did have good qualities. We did a lot of research, like reading these books which were written by their family members, telling us like about how they were in their younger years and in their everyday life, and they were kind of described as both being really lovely, like warm people. Like Bonnie
and they were
caring. Like I know that Clyde had a great relationship with his family and loved his mum so much, and so like you kind of have to just show like the good parts of them as well as the bad parts. Yeah, so I think that's probably why people can relate to them.
Yeah, they always travelled back or tried as much to travel back to visit their family even when they were on the run, and that's so dangerous, but it just showed their like devotion to their family.
Yeah.
And also not everybody they captured or held hostage was killed. They did let some people go and also like give them the fare to get home.
Mm-hmm.
But also I think what makes you root for them is that they were young and they were both really passionate, and it was the Great Depression. So you kind of admire them for, you know, following their own moral code, and as twisted as it was, but just making the most of their life in these really dark, depressing times.
Yeah.
So what was the biggest challenge you have to play those characters, and was there a challenge you had to face together, both of you?
When it came to like when we were in rehearsals for the show, the biggest challenge I found was when we were like technically rehearsing the show, like with the lights and with the costumes and everything, and there's this section at the end of the first act where I have like I did at the time have quite a big costume change, and that was really frantic, and like that stressed me out a lot. I don't know. Like this was like 2 days before we opened the show, and we just couldn't get this moment to work at the end of the first act, so we changed some things and things got ironed out. But that's one thing that I remember from rehearsals, thinking this is tough, like to get right.
I think because I did the concert back in January, I had a good understanding, a good idea of the show, even though it's completely different because this is a full-scale show. But I think like a lot is to be said for our director, Nick Winston. He just creates such a comfortable environment for us throughout rehearsals that you feel really open and free to be able to contribute and open up with ideas, and nothing's ever wrong. It's like you give it a go. If it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. But you know, not all rehearsal rooms are like that. So I think nothing felt really difficult or challenging because we were made to feel really comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would like your opinion about the relationship between Bonnie and Clyde. So do you think it's real love between them or more mutual manipulation to achieve the end? What do you think? Love or manipulation?
I think, like, from the research, that it's difficult to say because they were obviously real people, so we can't really comment on how they were as real people. But I think our portrayal of it is that it was definitely true love. There was definitely a sense of maybe some manipulation from Clyde's part in the beginning that Bonnie just kind of got blindsided by, and just she was almost like infatuated by him. But I don't think that he was intentionally like playing games or anything like that. I think he genuinely loved her equally. Like, I think they were like soulmates.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to like know for certain. No one will ever know, and all the research that we've done, all the different stories you read in different accounts from different people, like I feel like the point of view from Bonnie's mum and Clyde's sister, they're very biased in that they're angels, and then you'll hear it from an outsider's point of view, and you know they're menaces to society and everything. But as far as her mum's concerned, she was madly in love with Clyde.
Yeah.
And then I've heard another account recently that she was actually the driving manipulative force behind it all. So it's like, oh, there's so much to work from and for me to kind of choose to interpret. So I don't know, I think their legacy is that they were truly madly in love.
Yeah, I agree.
So a question about the myth now. Do you think they were born to be famous, or they glorified punks who became famous like by mistake? What do you think?
They definitely both always wanted to be famous. So I guess you could say they were born to be.
Yeah, I think Bonnie definitely would have been, even if she had left Clyde, she was always dead set on being famous, whether that was acting, singing, poetry.
Yeah.
She just got infamy instead.
And I don't know if he wanted fame as much as she did. I think he just wanted, he just liked the excitement of like being a gangster and like, but I don't know if it was fame that was driving him rather than like money and success and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd say they were born to be famous.
No, we have a musical about them.
That's great. Exactly.
So let's do a recipe now. What do you think are the good ingredients for a crime musical like Bonnie and Clyde? Like jazz music? Why does it work so well in a crime musical?
I don't know. I think, well, this works so well because Frank Wildhorn, who wrote it, came from like a jazz, blues, R&B background, and his music is just iconic, big anthems. All his music is epic, so there's not a bad song in the show. So I think that's why this one's a hit, but does it always necessarily mean jazz?
No, it doesn't. I think jazz works as like a genre because it's kind of got that like eerie feel to it. Like it's the instruments, the discord, and like the saxophones, and also like the storytelling that you can go through with jazz music, I think lends itself. But then, like you said, like we do also have like the rockier music in the show. There's some country in there. So yeah, I think it's just it's more to do with the storytelling of the songs and like the lyrics and but yeah, I guess that's a question for Frank.
And final question, so for the French audience who mostly knows Bonnie and Clyde from movies and also a Serge Gainsbourg song, what would you say to them to encourage them to come to London to see the show?
Well, we're only here for a few more weeks.
So book your tickets over.
London's most wanted musical.
Yeah, I would say come over. You'll have like you'll have a history lesson on what happened to Bonnie and Clyde, but you'll be thoroughly entertained throughout with amazing songs, amazing visuals. It's an experience that you don't want to miss.
Cool. Thank you, Frances. Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Bonnie and Clyde se joue jusqu'au 10 juillet au Art Theatre à Londres, et je vous dis à bientôt sur le Monde du Ciné.